What's up, everybody? Welcome on into Thursday. It is the NBA Strategy Show. I know you might be thinking to yourself, wait a minute, there's basketball today? I thought it was opening day in Major League Baseball. Both things can be true at the same time. In fact, let me let you in on a little secret here. There's even NHL later on, and we are going to be covering all of it, not Josh and I here right now, but over the course of the day on the Awesemo YouTube page, it will all be coming at you. Again, he is Josh Engleman. I am Adam Kaufman. If you're thinking to yourself, wasn't this supposed, you guys were supposed to start like 4 minutes ago, weren't you? What the hell? What is going on? Don't blame Josh. Josh has just been sitting there in that chair since the process. He has just been waiting and waiting and waiting. Put it on me. The Red Sox were postponed, and I'm trying to cope with it. I was all excited for opening day, and now I got to find something else to do this afternoon. I had to collect myself, get myself together, but now we are ready to focus on basketball. How are you, sir?
I'm pretty good. I had an okay day in NBA last night for the first time in what feels like forever. So I woke up with a renewed vigor. It's the first day of the MLB season, so I have another sport that I could actually not care at all about. I am a little sad that I'm losing my 100K up top contest on FanDuel. It's down to 50K. Thanks a lot, baseball. But you guys should be playing baseball and using all of our tools because they're fantastic. I know I am actually playing baseball, even though I have no idea what's going on. I will be diving in pretty aggressively at the moment that this show ends.
In the spirit of baseball, I know normally right off the top, I tell you, in addition to hitting the like button and the subscribe button, I tell you about our sponsor, No House Advantage. And I'll do that, not to worry, but baseball on the mind just for a second. I want to remind you, MLB opening day, even if not for the Red Sox, that's tomorrow. It is still today for literally everybody else. So you should be watching, and we have a deal for you. Get your first 9 days of Awesemo Plus MLB for just $9 when you use the promo starting9. That is starting with the numeral 9. Again, starting the number 9 gives you access to everything that we have to offer for MLB DFS, including player projections, ownership projections, top stacks, lineup builder, our premium Slack channel, and so much more. The offer is good through April 9th. So you got plenty of time here. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus MLB today. And again, that promo code is starting9. You know, do you think when people, Josh, were sitting waiting, it's 10:01, it's 10:02, it's 10:03 Eastern time, of course. I know this must be an April Fool's gag that they're doing. They're not going to show up today. They're just going to let us look at the show will be starting soon graphic for an hour. Let's see how many stick around. It'll be like an old MTV episode of Breaking Point or something.
I think that they are well aware that I would have no interest in an April Fool's joke and really wouldn't want to participate in that. That is not my jam. I hate it. It annoys me to no end, especially like my wife got this morning. We had a pretty crazy thunderstorm here last night to the point where like it woke us up in bed. My dog needed a thunder buddy, all that good stuff. So she wakes up this morning and comes into my office and she's like, Britt's Donuts got destroyed by a tornado last night. And I was like, oh, that sucks. They're like a mom and pop donut shop around here. Like it's basically like mom and pop Krispy Kreme. And I was like, wow, like if that went down, knowing where it is, like 6 other buildings would have had to get hit. It's in the center of a ton of other stuff. Like it wiped out all sorts of stuff. So inevitably she shows it to me on my phone. I was like, oh, that's a bummer. It says, click on the comments for more details. And it's just like April Fools, April Fools, April Fools. Wow, what a terrible joke. Why would you even want to say something like this? I was like, you bit on this? You didn't even go any further? You just assume that this long-standing establishment in the area got ripped down by a tornado and nothing else happened in that area? It's like, he's such a sucker.
Whose gag was it? Was it the mom and pop shop, or was it just like somebody on Twitter?
I'll be honest, I don't know. It was on Facebook. I don't know if that was perpetrated by the owners of the business, which I doubt, or just someone else. I didn't pay too close attention to like the header in the post that was actually made.
The only reason that I even asked that question is because if it was the owners of the shop, especially not a huge chain, but a mom and pop shop, I don't know about you, I'm something of a karma believer. I feel like that's a bad omen throwing that out into the world. If you're going to try and pull that kind of, oh, we went under, April Fools. All of a sudden a week later, watch out.
Right. Like if you're like, oh, the Burger King on the corner got wrecked by a tornado. It's like, ha, I go to that Burger King sometimes. That's fine. But like if this place went down, they could probably do like a GoFundMe and raise every single cent to put it back up again. Like that's how big of an institution this place is. To joke about it being ripped down by a tornado, which like happens around here.
Sure.
I wouldn't go down that road. We have enough natural disaster type stuff. We get enough hurricanes here that like I don't really want to joke about that stuff ruining our landmarks.
No, it seems like a bad idea to me. All right, let me tell you about No House Advantage. As mentioned, our sponsor taking a different spin on daily fantasy sports, offering player prop contests across the NBA, MLB. It's back, folks. NFL, PGA, all for cash prizes. This exclusively peer-to-peer fantasy sports platform levels the playing field, makes it easier for you to win real cash as compared with your traditional DFS websites. Now, the best part, you can join for free today. You heard me right. Join for free today. Download the No House Advantage app so you can use the promo code Awesemo. You knew it was going to be that, right? Promo code Awesemo and receive a match deposit bonus up to $20. Eligible for all users. Beat your friends, not the house, and win big with player props today. Now, we have to be out of here in about 45 minutes on the nose. We got 7 games to cover, so let's start to get into it here again. Josh and Kauf here with you. Hit that like button. Already sitting at about 50. Love all of you. A lot of people saying hello in the chat is greatly appreciated. Hello right back to you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being with us. So today, your upper echelon players. Let's begin with this. Russell Westbrook, Kyrie Irving, of course, with James Harden out, and Bradley Beal actually is projected back in. So he is included in this group. Kawhi Leonard, Nick Jokic, Trae Young. That's probably the, your upper tier right there. Who, which one or two guys stands out to you most before we start to go game by game?
So if I'm paying up today, I think it's quite clearly Kyrie Irving. We have no James Harden tonight, or at least we expect to have no James Harden tonight. Tweaked his whatever, hamstring, quad, calf. I can't remember.
Ego, who knows?
Some sort of lower leg injury. Can't remember off the top of my head, but either way, he left the game early yesterday. We still don't have Durant. So Kyrie is going to have, or at least should have, a massive, massive usage bump. To me, he is the clear pay up option. If we're looking for other guys that are in that sort of tier, I think Jimmy Butler is probably my second favorite pay up option of the day. He's 9K on both sites. But if we're talking that true 10K tier or even in that 10K area, I prefer Kyrie to Russ and to Jokic. If Bradley Beal ends up ruled out, I think Westbrook can close that gap a little bit, but it'll be close.
All right, let's go first to the Sixers and Cavaliers. So with Philadelphia, Tobias Harris is projected to be in the best spot by our guy Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, at least in terms of total points, right around 45 projected. Of course, points per dollar, you might want to pay down a little bit. Look to Dwight Howard, who is projected for about 6x value. You could obviously look to a guy like Ben Simmons. He's a popular player in the chat right now. People saying he's in a smash spot. Shake Milton is a good pay down option. Matisse Thybulle could be a really good pay down option. Who stands out to you most here for this game?
Yeah, so Ben Simmons, particularly on FanDuel, is the guy that we have to talk about. He's 7,900 on FanDuel, 8,900 on DK. Now, I still like him on DraftKings, but to me, he's a much different play on FanDuel. The problem with Ben Simmons is that he has been dreadful for the past month. 0.97 FanDuel points per minute over the last 30 days. That is well below his normal rates. It has been bad without Joel Embiid. But the problem is, for this entire season when Joel Embiid is off the floor, Ben Simmons has a sizable usage rate, a 1.2 fantasy point per minute rate, all that good stuff. So to me, I'm just going to continue to project Ben Simmons as I normally do, especially in this matchup against Cleveland, where they should roll them. Cleveland's really, really bad. I think I say that a lot. Probably every day that Cleveland plays, I feel fine about that. So I have him projected for about 43 fantasy points, same as Alex, 1.23 fantasy points per minute for this game. That puts Ben Simmons in the optimal lineup somewhere around a third of the time. He is clearly one of the top 10 plays on FanDuel today. I do like him on DK, but it's not nearly as high. Tobias Harris looks great on both sites, probably like a 15 to 20%er. A little bit of Dwight Howard, a little bit of Seth Curry. I think those are two fine options. Mike Scott's been playing a little bit more minutes with Joel Embiid out, but he is such a poor fantasy point per minute performer that it doesn't even really matter if you give him a couple extra minutes. So Simmons on FanDuel is the focus. Simmons and Harris are the two priorities coming out of Philadelphia.
All right, how about the other side here with the Cavaliers? Naturally, Colin Sexton would be the guy that you think about at the top of the heap, but it's not just him in terms of value options or guys projected to have nice nights for their price point. You could look at Sexton. You could also go down to Isaiah Hartenstein, who, of course, put up a good night the other night. You could go way down Taurean Prince. I don't know if you feel like going near the minimum. There might be more value, better options that emerge over the course of the day or just in the other games that we haven't gotten to yet. But how about for the Cavaliers?
Oh, this team, dude. So the number one play on the slate is in this game, unfortunately. And it's not a fun thing to do. Isaiah Hartenstein is 4K on FanDuel, $3,700 on DraftKings, and he's the best play on both sites. They don't have a center. So this is a team that had too many centers a couple weeks ago. They were playing Andre Drummond and JaVale McGee at the same time. They had Jared Allen as well. Well, now Drummond's gone, JaVale's gone, Jared Allen's hurt. Larry Nance is out. Kevin Love may be back today, but he's going to play like 10 minutes if he does come back. So Hartenstein is the nominal center. I gave him 26 minutes. That puts him in the optimal lineup 50% of the time on both sites. A little bit higher on one than the other, but still, that's the number. He is unquestionably the top play so long as we know that he starts. After that, like Colin Sexton looks okay on both sites. Dean Wade at 4,100 on FanDuel, 4,600 on DraftKings is a value option that you can get to. Darius Garland looks okay. Broderick Thomas is 3,500 on DraftKings. He's another guy you got to pay attention to.
I feel like he was the other night too, by the way.
Once he wasn't starting, which shout out to Alex Baker for letting everybody know in the NBA breaking news channel to try to get out of that. It's not fun. I feel like we're talking about Cleveland as if this is the last week of the regular season, and this is only the first day of April. We're not even remotely close. We actually play games into May. This is gross for Cleveland. So you're playing a ton of Hartenstein. You're playing a bunch of Sexton, Garland, Wade, Thomas, depending on the site. Even Isaac Okoro, who is really, really terrible from a fantasy perspective. 0.49 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. Honestly, that might actually be the worst rate in the league. Now I need to check. Oh, no, it's not. There are a few. Garrett Templesworth, Bonga, Hill, Domboya, Garrison Matthews, Semi, all worse than him. But that is illustrious company right now. The moral of the story, Isaiah Hartenstein is the best play of the day.
For now. Let's really.
Well, actually, if he starts, I don't think that it's possible for him to not be.
All right. Well, lock him in, put him in 100% of your lineups, but just, make sure you check back to see if there's any other weird breaking news about him all of a sudden not playing or not starting or something like that. But for now, lock him into your optimals. So Wizards and Pistons, we move on to our next game of this slate here, 7:00 Eastern time tip for that one as well. So part of course, the initial lineup lock. And for Washington, again, Bradley Beal is expected in there. It doesn't change the fact that Russell Westbrook is not human. The man is projected for about 60 fantasy points. He is, north of 5x value, about 5.5. He's just putting up absurd numbers really over the last several years, but in particular over the last, let's call it 10, 12, 13 games right now. I mean, absolutely nuts what he is doing on a regular basis. Even after slow starts, still finishes in the fire. Again, that much better if Bradley Beal doesn't play, but he is projected in right now and for pretty close to 50 fantasy points in his own right. You could look to Denny, you could look to Chandler Hutchinson if you're, eyeing some value. But to me, and tell me if you disagree, it seems like more of a top-headed discussion here for these two. And is Russ, to whatever degree automatic exists, is he a guy you got to get in there right now? Sort
of. So if Bradley Beal plays, Russell Westbrook looks like a good play, but not a priority play. He just is going to take a hit in rates just by having Bradley Beal out there. Bradley Beal, to me, is the actual priority if he plays. 8,800 on FanDuel, 9,100 on DraftKings. If he plays, I have to assume that he is healthy enough to play. I know that's something Ship My Money, Adam Scher says a lot. We can't really look into whether or not people are injured or not if they are willing to go out there and play. So I think Beal shows up in the optimal lineup on FanDuel about 25% of the time. It's around 13% on DK where he's a little bit more expensive. Russell Westbrook, to me, just because of his price tag and with Beal in, is just sort of a guy, a 10 to 15%er. I'd be actually more likely to get to Rui Hachimura on FanDuel than Russell Westbrook. Obviously different salary tiers, but relative to salary, I'd be more likely to get to Rui. And then I think you can get to Denny at 4K on DraftKings. I mean, this is a guy that is also down in that lower rung of fantasy performers. He doesn't do anything when he is out on the floor. I think he's only shot like 20 free throws this season, and he's been playing a lot. It's really bad. He's a value play that exists right now. It's not going to be anything special. Beal on FanDuel is the key. Beal on DraftKings is like the second priority. I thought I would like Washington a little bit more, but it's basically just a two and a half man team. All right, let's take a look at Detroit then. And normally I'd be talking to you about a guy like Jeremy Grant. It feels more like,
Isaiah Stewart life right now. He's projected for about 6x value by Alex and, right around 25 fantasy points. We'll see. Depends, of course, which site you're looking at as well. This is in the case of DraftKings. Diallo has been a good player since coming over from OKC. He's projected for 5x value as well. Again, both kind of mid-tier price guys. What do you think about them, or is this at least the side of this game you kind of fading it?
Yeah, so Alex went pretty heavy on Isaiah Stewart's minutes, and I'm not entirely sure why. I might have to talk to the boss man about it. They played last night. Isaiah Stewart played 18 minutes. So that's at least an interesting 26-minute projection. Either way, Mason Plumlee and Isaiah Stewart are going to be splitting these center minutes. I'd be more likely to get to Plumlee right now than Stewart, but you can adjust those minutes pretty easily and flip that script. Jeremy Grant, to me, is still the guy you want to get to. It's funny. I've probably rostered Jeremy Grant more than any other player above the field this season. And yesterday, I did not get lineups in prior to lock, which wasn't an issue, but it did leave me out of the Jeremy Grant sweepstakes, which ultimately was a day where he popped off with, some really good scoring and some steals and blocks. I'm going right back to him. 6,600 for him is just too cheap. This is the best matchup you can get in the league. Monster pace up spot. They gain about 5 possessions over their average, which means that Jeremy Grant is projected for like 2.5 more fantasy points just because of facing Washington. That's a really, really big upgrade. So I'm going straight back to Jeremy Grant. I think he looks like a real big priority play on FanDuel. Same story on DK, even though he's a little bit more expensive. And then everybody starts to blend in together. Mason Plumlee, Sadiq Bey, Sabin Lee. All three of those guys look really comparable, maybe like 15% type guys on DraftKings. And again, a lot of this is just happening because of the matchup. I think Hamidou Diallo, Isaiah Stewart, and Frank Jackson are all probably like around 10%ers on DK. I didn't expect this, but the Detroit Pistons on a 7-game slate are oddly appealing as lineup filler.
About 300 people watching along here on YouTube. 64 likes as I'm looking at it right now. Come on. Let's get to 100. Don't make me beg. I will if I have to. Actually, that won't really check in until I'm looking for around 200 likes. But 100, I think let's just do us a courtesy. One big push and get us there. And of course, please do hit the subscribe button if you are watching along. Want to build that base up to about 75,000 subscribers after we recently passed 50. And we are grateful to each and every one of you except for the ones who have not yet done it. Please go right ahead. If you're not able to watch your favorite Awesemo YouTube shows, by the way, or shows on YouTube, I guess I should say, not to worry. One, they don't go anywhere. They live in the ether. You can go back. You can rewatch. You could rewatch an NBA strategy show from 3 weeks ago if you felt so compelled. It's sitting right there for you. But if you didn't want to do that and you don't want to go to YouTube in general, that is okay. Awesemo has a podcast network. We have got a podcast for every sport, and we're available on every major platform. So head on over to awesemo.com/podcast. Check out the latest. Just leave a 5-star rating and review on one of our podcasts with your Twitter handle or email address. You'll be eligible for a free week of Awesemo Plus as well. Awesemo Plus Platinum at that. And one winner will be awarded every Friday. Reviews will be eligible to win for up to a year. Best of luck to you. About a half hour more with you until we do have to skedaddle on out of here. Hello in the chat. We see all of you. Thank you for being here with us. Let's go to the next game. We get to the 7:30 portion of the slate Eastern time. Charlotte and Brooklyn. Conversation might be a little more interesting on the net side, but first, Charlotte, is anybody in a spot that feels compelling to play? And I say that knowing full well that Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier, these guys coming off of big games.
Yeah, so DraftKings is a different story than FanDuel. There are a couple more priorities on FanDuel, but let's say Gordon Hayward's on a different tier. He showed up in the optimal about 13.5% of the time. That's the highest number I have on DraftKings. Terry Rozier, PJ Washington, Devontae Graham, Miles Bridges, Malik Monk, and Bismack Biyombo are all somewhere between 6 and 10%. So fine filler on a 7-gamer. I would say Hayward is the priority. The real issue comes in on FanDuel. Gordon Hayward is $7K. That's $900 cheaper than his price tag on DraftKings. I think he looks great at that price tag 25% of the time in the optimal lineup. So I will be going to Gordon Hayward without any issue. And then even though he bent me over and really gave me a spanking 2 nights ago, PJ Washington, 5,500 on FanDuel. I am going straight back to him again. He's been disastrous the past 2 times out. I'm not going to let that sway me. I think that he should be in optimal lineups somewhere in the 20 to 25% range. Anxious to see his ownership because he really has put a bit of a beating on people as of late, but I'm going straight back to PJ Washington. I think Rozier and Devontae Graham are both fine on FanDuel, but Hayward and PJ Washington are the priorities.
So for the Nets, I'd like you to be right side up having this conversation. Kyrie Irving, with James Harden projected out, as we know, Kevin Durant won't play. Normally, when even one of those guys is out, you fixate on the other two. When two of them are out, the third just feels like he's an automatic play. Is Kyrie Irving right now projected for about 6x value, an automatic play for you tonight if Harden is out? And anyone else from the Nets side that you are looking at, such as Bruce Brown, Tyler Johnson, guys like that?
Yeah, so Kyrie Irving is close to an automatic play. I assume he's a cash game lock just because of the way that his salary is working out, although Russ could break into that mix if Beal ends up ruled out. Look, 10K on FanDuel, 9,800 on DraftKings. I have him projected for 1.5 fantasy points per minute. He sees monster usage increase, monster assist increase when these guys are off the floor. I have him projected for 30 real points, so 40 real points is clearly in the realm of possibility. Shows up in the optimal lineup about a third of the time. We're talking like 35% of the time. After that, there's not much else to like for Brooklyn because we just have a lot of guys that play, 20 to 24 minutes. I'm not a huge Joe Harris fan in DFS. He's usually appropriately priced for his role. So you just have to be there the day that he does knock down all of those threes. Bruce Brown is the guy that I'm looking at that I think will get at least a little bit of extra run. I have him in for 26 minutes. He's 4,400 on FanDuel, 4,700 on DraftKings, shows up in the optimal lineup about 15% of the time. I don't really see too much else from Brooklyn that I want to prioritize. It's certainly just Kyrie at the top.
Okay, our next game here, and that is Golden State and Miami. I do want to mention, by the way, it's not NBA related, but hey, it's basketball and we're here. Shams Charania, Hall of Fame North Carolina coach Roy Williams is retiring, Josh.
I booed him at a high school basketball game once.
Somehow I knew you had some sort of Roy Williams story. There had to be something. You booed him at a high school basketball game?
Yeah, Oak Hill Academy against Episcopal Academy. Episcopal had Wayne Ellington and Gerald Henderson at the time. Oak Hill had Michael Beasley, Nolan Smith, Ty Lawson, probably a couple other dudes that ended up making the league. I was a Duke fan at the least. I'm more of a lapsed Duke fan now. But Roy Williams was at the game, as were a few other coaches. And this was at the Palestra, which was a really nice time to watch a basketball game. And they introduced Roy Williams, and I booed that man and pointed and booed and let him know I wasn't a huge fan of him. That was also the most ridiculous basketball game I have ever seen in my life.
I was going to do a different game. I was going to do Golden State, but Jordan has asked me kindly with a series of exclamation points. So, I mean, you could debate how kindly it was, but he wants me to do Orlando instead. I got a huge Magic fan, apparently. So let's go to the Magic and Pelicans game. Let's start with Orlando here. Terrence Ross, I guess is your best option if such a thing exists for Orlando, by the way. It doesn't feel like it after they traded away basically their entire team at the deadline, or anyone that we actually care about. Is there anyone that you would roster from the Magic tonight, regardless of which site you're looking at?
Not really. The highest optimal lineup percentage I got on either FanDuel or DraftKings is Michael Carter-Williams at 8.3%. This is just columns and columns of red in my sheet. The only, Terrence Ross projects for one fantasy point per minute, basically, but he's 6,900 and 7,100. I just assume that they get waxed. They're 10-point underdogs. I'm not interested in the Orlando Magic.
Are you interested at all in this game? Is there anyone from New Orleans, like Zion, if he's presumed healthy, that you would want to roster?
Yeah, so we've got Zion. We've got Brandon Ingram, Zion 9,500 and 9,200. We don't know if he is going to play. He is questionable. Brandon Ingram is 8K and 7,800. If Zion ends up out, we're going to open up a lot more value for New Orleans. That's for sure. Brandon Ingram, would only imagine, is going to become a very nice play. I think that Ingram and Williamson are 15 to 20% plays. They're the clear best pieces coming out of New Orleans. I think Steven Adams is viable, 5,400 on FanDuel, 5,300 on DraftKings. He's certainly going to be outworking, Wendell Carter or Kem Birch or Mo Bamba or whatever. So I don't mind at all getting to Steven Adams. Hasn't been great over the last 30 days, but I still think he's sort of a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy. But Zion and Brandon Ingram are the stars here.
All right, folks, want to remind you, you can get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport available to you, which is basically everything, with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass. $29.95, that is it. But trust me, you'll turn your money around real fast. $30 a week, but compared to what you could win, it's kind of a no-brainer. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections that I've been talking about here a lot, ownership projections. Josh likes to get into that stuff. Our premium Slack channel where we see you guys. Thanks for being with us. And of course, you got the March Madness package that's happening, MLB, so much stuff that is available to you. You want to make sure you check that out. And DFS projections for every single slate as well. If you're only looking to play NBA DFS, no big deal. Sign up for our new Awesemo Plus NBA weekly package, only $16.95. That's it, $16.95 a week. Stop guessing, start winning, and join Awesemo Plus today. We appreciate it. And really, you'll be thanking us, if I'm being honest with you. It's good. It's something you need to do. All right, now, Jordan, is it okay? Can we go to Golden State? We're going to go to Golden State. I got the thumbs up from Jordan. Or, well, it was a finger. Maybe it wasn't the thumb. Golden State, Steph Curry, not in the best spot, mainly because we don't know if he's going to play. Alex has him projected in for about 40 points, but terrible points per dollar at only about 4x value. James Wiseman really is your pay down option here at center for the Warriors. But how are you viewing this game with what we know right now?
I'm not really viewing it all that well. Like, playing Miami in DFS is generally as bad of a spot as it gets. Steph is 9K and 9,600. He's fine today, but again, it's a pace down spot. It's solid defensive matchup. It doesn't make me too excited. And that's sort of how I feel about Draymond and Oubre and Wiggins. They're all like 5 to 10%ers. I say this a lot, but I'll never have much of a problem playing appropriately priced guys that will play starter minutes. Like, you can put any one of those guys into a lineup as their final piece if that salary works. And I'm not going to put up much of a fight. Like, you're just going to get guys like that in a lineup. Not every one of them is going to just be jam-packed with value and good ownership leverage. The guy that I do think is the priority is James Wiseman on FanDuel. He's 4K there. He's 5,200 on DK. So we're only focusing on the 4K price tag. He's playing about 28 minutes a game now that he's been named the starter. He hasn't been great over the last 30 days, just 0.84 fantasy points per minute. I do project him a little bit higher than that based on the usage rates and rebounding rates that he's shown. So I have him in for about 26.5 fantasy points. I have the exact same projection as Alex right now. So great minds think alike. In that case, I think Wiseman is in the optimal lineup somewhere in that 15 to 20% range, which is a pretty high number on FanDuel, considering you only get 100% of total exposure. It's not like the other positions where you can really get a lot more. So Wiseman as a value center option looks pretty good to me. Otherwise, pick and choose little drips and drops of the rest of the starters.
Hit the like, folks. Almost at 150 here on YouTube, about 400 people watching. See, more people watching means more likes that I'm looking for. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button. We do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Other side of the game here for Miami. Probably some better options here after all the sort of uncertainty with how things look, or just doom and gloom there for Golden State. You could maybe pass over Jimmy Butler, look to Bam Adebayo, Goran Dragic, Trevor Ariza, probably not a Duncan Robinson or Tyler Hero, but you tell me, how do you view this one?
Yeah, so I don't really know what I want to do here other than play a lot of Jimmy Butler, particularly on FanDuel. Shows up in the optimal lineup 40% of the time. He is 9K. I like him at about a 20% rate on DK as well. Those are the clear standout options for me for Miami. The big question is, how does Victor Oladipo get integrated with this Miami Heat team? And I don't really know what the answer to that is. I do know that I feel comfortable not playing Victor Oladipo at either 7,800 or 7,500, but I don't know what his usage is going to do to the rest of the team. And just having Victor Oladipo in, I think, makes some pretty good changes. So I'm not all that interested in Bam Adebayo at 9,400 on FanDuel. He's much more appealing for 8,300 on DraftKings, although I still prefer Jimmy Butler. I think Tyler Hero is an okay option. He's been playing a little bit north of 30 minutes a game. If that continues, and I don't know if it does, again, because of Oladipo, I think that Hero ends up as a viable option. But Jimmy Butler is my clear best piece from Miami. It's a great spot against Golden State.
As we know, some things are going to change throughout the day. It always does. I don't think, and we can ask our guy News God, El Negro Loco, in the chat there, if this slate is going to be flipped on its head at some point. I don't think people can handle that emotionally, or their hearts could handle it here on MLB opening day. But it is possible, even with a 7-gamer. Stay up to date on the latest NBA DFS news with our Awesemo NBA Twitter handle. That is at Awesemo NBA. Our guy News God will be delivering the latest on injuries, starting lineups, minutes limits, and so much more daily before lock. Make sure you give at Awesemo NBA a Twitter follow, but don't just stop there. News God is on Twitter, of course, and it is at News God, NEWZ God_DFS. Be sure to check him out. And also, you mentioned Bearded Adam, Ship My Money. You can look at the daily deep dive article, which is free all season long. A must read if you are playing NBA DFS, with all the great updates that are available to you throughout every single day before the slate. So Atlanta and San Antonio, a couple games still to go before we get out of here. And we are with you for about 20 more minutes. So we have a little time to expand. We'll get to Odd Shopper. And of course, the DVD wall pull. Don't forget about that. Trae Young, Clint Capella. Those are the most compelling plays, I would say, for the Atlanta side. Maybe a pay down option like Tony Snell emerges here over the course of the day. But what do you think of the studs, Young and Capella?
Yeah, so we don't have John Collins today, and DeAndre Hunter is questionable. That questionable tag, probably not all that important, but it might really open up Gallinari, Bogdanovich, Herter for a couple extra minutes. We'll see where that goes, because if they just throw additional minutes at Solomon Hill, we won't really have to care all that much. I think Lou Will just plays straight backup minutes for Trae Young. Maybe they play them alongside of each other for a little bit. I assume that lineup will get absolutely roasted defensively, but we're looking for offensive stats here. So when push comes to shove, Trae Young and Clint Capella are the two top options. They're priced very differently across both sites. So Trae Young is 9,400 on DK, 8,700 on FanDuel. I greatly prefer him on FanDuel to DK. Clint Capella is basically the opposite. 8,500 on FanDuel, 7,700 on DraftKings. So I greatly prefer Capella on DraftKings. They are both very good plays. You're rostering them in a little bit different amounts. So I'd say like Capella is a 20%er on DK, a 15%er on FanDuel. Trae Young is like a 25%er on FanDuel and a 15%er on DK. After that, I'm going straight back to Bogdanovich. He's still 4,200 on FanDuel. For some reason, he's 5,400 on DK, which is pretty easy to get away from. But that FanDuel price, I liked it a lot 2 nights ago. He went nuts. I like it again tonight. Those are the 3 guys that I have my eye on. If DeAndre Hunter happens to be out, you'll want to play more Bogdanovich, more Kevin Herter, more Danilo Gallinari, and probably not really all that much of like Tony Snell or Solomon Hill.
El Negro Loco, by the way, says, Beardless Adam, respectfully, I'm not sure what to expect today. We started the MLB day with a postponement. I can only imagine what the NBA has in store for me today. What about you, before we go to the other side of this game? Is this a day where you think things could be turned upside down, knowing full well that we don't really know until we know?
Just looking at everything, it seems like a pretty cut and dry day. Like we should get Bradley Beal news pretty early. On the off chance that they happen to sit Kyrie Irving because it's a back-to-back, like we should have that news as well. The only real pieces that we're going to be waiting on would be like weird Magic starters, Zion. I don't have any real, like DeAndre Hunter matters, but I don't think he matters in a way that it causes like crazy ripple effects through the slate. We already know that the Clippers dudes are already out. So on the surface, this slate looks pretty easy. When I say that out loud, it's usually just an incredible jinx. So yeah, we'll see.
But it's April Fool's. Who knows? If Kyrie Irving does, get ruled out because of the back-to-back, like you said, hopefully that doesn't happen because the Nets actually intend to win this game and they know they're going to need him to do that. But if he were to get ruled out, do you all of a sudden play like 5 Nets in your lineup? Is that something that you definitely do in cash games, but in GPPs, maybe you don't because you're looking for differentiation? What would your approach be if a guy of that level gets ruled out, knowing there's just nothing else available there?
Oh, if Kyrie Irving is happens to not play because this is a back-to-back and they just don't care all that much, which is possible. Like I haven't seen anything that is going to be the case
in the conference. It could happen.
Yeah. I haven't seen anything to suspect that, but it's not out of the realm of possibility given Kyrie's
temperament.
I was actually going to go with temperament. I wish I could have beat you to it just so you could have the experience of like knowing that it was the same word. Anyway, doesn't matter. If he's out, you're playing basically everybody from Brooklyn. Bruce Brown, Joe Harris, Claxton, Green, Tyler Johnson, Shamet, TLC. These guys are all under 5K on FanDuel. Only Joe Harris is north of 5K on DraftKings. There's just going to be so much minutes and usage going around. You're firing in like 3 or 4 Brooklyn Nets, regardless of format.
All right, let's go to, let's see. We did Atlanta. Let's look at the San Antonio side of things here. For the Spurs, a lot of good options. DeMar DeRozan is certainly not a guy that it's some sort of automatic fade. He's in a good spot, but you could argue Deshante Murray's in a better spot at a similar price point. Paying down, Derek White's in a good spot. Keldon Johnson, Patty Mills all in good spots. Mills in particular is projected for about 5.5x value. Who do you like here for the Spurs?
Not really anybody. Still sort of waiting a little bit on Lonnie Walker news. They've got, he could play. He didn't play yesterday, but it is a back-to-back. Maybe that was implied. I don't think that really changes anything. I think DeMar DeRozan looks okay. I think Derek White looks okay. Deshante Murray on DraftKings at 7,100 looks okay. These guys all just look like filler to me. No one stands out. Everybody seems to be mostly properly priced. I don't really have any ambiguity in pricing or in projections with Alex. These guys just sort of exist. Nobody is like a crazy good fantasy point per minute guy. Nobody plays crazy minutes. It's all really balanced. And in those situations, I don't mind plucking Spurs out one by one, but it would surprise me if I had lineups with like more than 2 Spurs.
You have probably seen the Awesemo avatar, by the way, all over the DFS leaderboards. It's for good reason, by the way, folks. If you rock our avatar on your DFS profile, well, you will win a free month of Awesemo Plus when you place within the top 3 of any GPP of at least 5,000 entries. So head on over to awesemo.com/announcements/avatar. If you can't remember that because you have a terrible attention span, just Google search Awesemo avatar. That's it. Awesemo avatar on Google, and then for instructions on how to download the image, they're right there for you. Make sure to check that out. And, why not try and cash in if you can here, obviously, and be rewarded for how well you perform in these GPPs. One more game, that is Denver and the Clippers. Now, for the Nugs, Nick Jokic obviously is, that's the guy we're always going to talk about, but he's not projected for the best night by Alex. About 50 points, not even, at least on DraftKings, and 4.5x value right now, and nobody else, for that matter, for the Nugs that stands out to him. What about to you?
So this one's kind of tricky. Well, I'll say this. I think Alex might be a little low on Jokic here. That's a real pessimistic spot. But it is the Clippers. The difference is they're missing Patrick Beverley, Paul George, Serge Ibaka. I'm missing a 4th person. Marcus Morris is questionable. So I think the outlook for Jokic is a little bit rosier than that, but he's still not anything that I'm going crazy for. I would prefer Russ if Beal is out. I already prefer Kyrie. So he's not my priority pay-up option, but I do expect that projection to at least come up a little bit throughout the day. I have Jokic as like a 15 to 20%er. I'm definitely going back to Jamal Murray at 7,300 on FanDuel. He's 17% owned. He's someone I get to a lot more than the field, so I'm hoping that continues. Michael Porter Jr. is about a 15%er to me, 6,800 on FanDuel, 7,100 on DraftKings. Those 3 guys, no surprise, are the main 3 gentlemen that you can get from Denver today. They all look really, really similar relative to their salaries, though. So no real priority, but those guys should be in a solid 15 to 20% chunk of your lineups. I think Will Barton is the only other guy you would really want to get to at 5,300. I'm not there for Aaron Gordon. He's had very minimal usage so far, minimal assist rate. I think he's just trying to fit in, be that 4th guy that's on the floor. We'll see him be a little bit better, but we're going to need that price tag to change at least a little bit more. It's way too expensive on DraftKings. Jokic, Murray, Porter, but I'm not telling anybody that things they don't already know. It's not like I was going to come on here and recommend JaVale McGee.
Other side then for the Clips, Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris, very good spots with Paul George expected out for this one. And then you've got Luke Kennard, similar story, Reggie Jackson. I mean, there's a variety of options, at different price points as well. Start at the top. How much do you want to play Kawhi with George out and, the trickle down effect from there?
A lot. I mean, he looks really good. It's just Kawhi is a really consistent performer, and you don't get the same sort of extremes. You just get, you just feel pretty good generally when he plays the entire game. So he shows up in optimal lineups for me on FanDuel 22% of the time. It's about 15 on DK. Certainly a guy that I'm going to be getting to as the main cog of this Clippers everything. The real key play here is $4,200 on DraftKings Luke Kennard. With Paul George out these past 2 games, Kennard's played north of 30 minutes. I gave him 30 to be pessimistic, and he shows up in 35% of my lineups. I think he's like the number 2 DK play today, or maybe the number 3 DK play today. Still like him on FanDuel. He's just a much better play on DraftKings. Shooting guard and small forward eligibility as well, so you can put him in 5 different roster spots. Reggie Jackson's going to play close to 30 minutes. Terrence Mann's going to play 30 minutes. If Marcus Morris is in, he's going to play north of 30 minutes, or at least you would expect it to. So I'm really, really heavy on the Clippers. And if Marcus Morris happens to be out, it gets even more extreme. Not like Patrick Patterson is good, but he would become a viable value play, flat minimum on both sites. Maybe Amir Coffey gets some additional minutes and he can sniff around being a value play. That just firms up Kennard and Jackson and Mann and Kawhi as well. The Clippers are sneaky one of the best options today in the late night hammer just because they're missing so many bodies.
Let me tell you about Odd Shopper, folks. One of the biggest edges in sports betting, always shopping to find the best line. Betting lines, they can change by the minute. We all know that, right? They can vary greatly depending on which book you're using. It's why it's important to use the Awesemo Odd Shopper to find the best lines available to you on the game or player prop that you are betting on to give you that edge to help you best beat the house. Head on over to oddshopper.awesemo.com, where we compile the very best bets available for game lines, player props, and player and team futures, all updated in real time each and every day. Hit the like, by the way, almost at 150, about 500 people watching now. Smash that like button, hit the subscribe button. It is much appreciated here, folks. Let's go to Odd Shopper and see what stands out, and then we'll do our DVD wall pull here in a matter of moments. We've got you for about 10 more minutes, so a little time to riff now that we've gone through the 7-game slate. If anyone has any questions, throw them on into the YouTube chat related to obviously the slate or whatever else. We'll get there. No April Fool's crap either. Let's see. Let's go point spread first. So I would say, how about Orlando and the Pelicans? You got New Orleans favored by 9 points across all the books available to you on here on Odd Shopper. Is that a foregone conclusion for you? You feel good about that number?
I think I would probably be more likely to take Orlando there, which doesn't make me feel comfortable at all. But on the off chance that Zion gets ruled out, I think you can get a little bit of love. And even if he doesn't, that game is ripe for a backdoor cover.
Clippers and Nuggets very close. Best case scenario, you can get the Nugs at -1.5, or the Clippers at +2. You like either of those? Would you stay away from the game in general?
I'll be honest. When I sat down this morning, I was a little surprised that line wasn't bigger. For the Clippers to be missing Ibaka, Paul George, Patrick Beverly, Rondo in this case, potentially Marcus Morris, I just assumed Denver would be a bigger favorite, especially after having added Aaron Gordon. They are essentially healthy. To me, I want to lock and load Denver. Denver beat them in the playoffs. This seems like an even better spot for Denver than some of those playoff games. So yeah, give me the Nuggets minus sort of whatever the line is.
El Negro Loco says in the chat, you guys breezed through these games today. El Negro Loco, you left out the word flawlessly.
Yeah.
Breezed through these games today flawlessly.
Work smarter, not harder, man.
Crushed them. All right, let's go totals here.
Okay.
Which total jumps out? There are quite a few in the mid 220s, but how about the projected largest one right now? You can get the Nets over under 224.5 against the Hornets. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a game that I would like to get the over in, and that with the caveat that is assuming Kyrie Irving does play.
Sure.
When Kyrie Irving is on the floor without James Harden, the Brooklyn Nets play at a significantly faster pace. Kyrie really gets them out running. I believe that I heard yesterday on a podcast that their pace goes up when Kyrie is on alone by like 5 full possessions. So I don't know if that number is fully worked into that total. It wouldn't surprise me if that total rose a little bit throughout the day. So I would be leaning a little bit more towards the over in that game because I think they're going to miss out a little bit on the pace.
One much lower, that's the Sixers and Cavaliers, looking at a 211 over under. What do you think?
I would not be shocked at all to see the under come out of that game. Cleveland, not a very good offensive team. Like even their best offensive players are hella inefficient. I could see a situation where the Cavs hang like 84 points today. And I don't see Philly being like this mammoth offensive performance. So I would lean a little bit more towards the under, but nothing that I feel really comfortable about.
I always enjoy seeing how the player props compare to what you have for your personal projections. How about Colin Sexton sticking with those Cavs? 25.5.
I would take the under. I have him in for 24 on the dot.
Okay. Who else do we like here? You mentioned Jeremy Grant before. How about 20? Let's just call it 23 as, I'll put the two books that you can get something available. I'll average it out.
So while I like him in DFS, I have him at 21.7. So I would be more likely to take the under on Jeremy Grant, not with any sort of firm feel, but either way.
Devontae Graham, real good game recently. You could get an over of 15.5, an under of 17.5. How do you view him?
I got him at 14.8. So I would love to take that under. That's one of the best bets I've had so far.
Steph Curry, 26.5, only available at one book. Again, speaking to his uncertainty. What do you think?
I got him at 25.6. So anything inside that 1 point mark is probably just a pass for me.
One more. DeMar DeRozan, 20, let's call it 21. Average that one out as well.
20.6. So again, that would probably be a pass for me.
Okay. Have you been eyeing the DVD wall behind me the entire show? And are you going to just by chance pick either Ted because of your Thunder Buddies reference earlier or something baseball themed?
I am eyeing it.
Allow me to get out of your way. What do we have?
Okay. So let's see. Is that Mark McGuire bobblehead right in the middle? Yeah. Yep. So two shelves below that, okay. six in from the right.
6 in from the right. Okay.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Popular one. Cult classic. Not at all baseball related though. Airplane.
Oh, fantastic. Been a long time since I've seen Airplane, but I don't mind that pick at all.
You gotta love the Saturday Night Fever riff in that movie. A lot of good spoofs.
It has been a long time since I've seen that movie. That movie had a budget of $3.5 million.
Back then, that was probably a decent amount of money.
Yeah.
That's a
shout out to Kareem.
Someone in the chat asked, and I almost brought this up too. Yeah, shout out to Kareem is right. The co-pilot. Josh uses hella a lot. I only heard it once today, but Josh uses hella a lot. Are you a California kid? No, I am an East Coast person my entire life. I've never lived anywhere further than like an hour and a half from the Atlantic Ocean. It just caught on for you at some point? I guess. It's not even something I ever noticed. Well, you're not saying wicked. I know that much. No, I don't want to talk like that. Like an animal. Yeah, exactly. Do you have a favorite? I mean, we're not going to do another poll, but while we have a couple minutes, do you have a favorite baseball movie ever? It's got to be Major League for me. I've probably seen that more than any other baseball movie. Hardball is close, but Major League is my clear number one. Fun. Well, I don't know if it's a fun fact. It's kind of a stupid fact, but a fact nonetheless about Hardball. It's on the wall behind me. I've got it. I own it. I've never seen it. Oh, you're missing out, man. It's good stuff. So that came out my senior year of high school. Yeah. Our baseball team was pretty good. Like we really got into that movie because it was a baseball movie coming out at that time. The music is sick. Like they play Big Papa in it, and that's like a big tenet of the movie. Yeah. So like that got really fun for us. And that's an emotionally powerful movie too. Diane Lane, right? Along with Keanu. Yeah, Diane Lane. And she's great. She's great. She's not as good as she is in Unfaithful, but I'll take it either way. Well, I mean, that was just because of the bathroom scene. That's where you were locked in on. I mean, pretty much every scene. She gets it in the hallway of the apartment building too, which is pretty fun. Yeah, I mean, she's. I think this is not the first time we've talked about that, but I could be wrong. I talked about this movie recently in some form. I don't think it was the two of us, but I'll talk about Diane Lane and Unfaithful with you anytime. The Natural, Field of Dreams being mentioned, Rookie of the Year, Bull Durham. There's a lot of favorites. How has nobody mentioned I don't know, Little Big League yet? Or I mean, Little Big League is a lot better than most of the movies you just named. Angels in the Outfield. That one's not. That's pretty. It should be pretty low. That movie's garbage. So you don't want to talk about Major League Back to the Minors then?
I've got a friend that claims that that's the best one of the three, but I'm going to go ahead and disagree pretty firmly.
I'd like to talk to that friend. I really would. Here's what you got coming up for you over the course of your busy Awesemo YouTube day. So we are going to be getting out of here, obviously, in a matter of moments, but in a little while, about an hour, you will have the MLB strategy show, noon Eastern time. You'll have MLB Live Before Lock at 1, NHL strategy show at 2. You got, of course, the tip-off at 4 o'clock Eastern. Let's see, NBA Deeper Dive at 5, NBA Live Before Lock at 6, NBA Live Before Lock a little bit later at 9 as well. Are you done for the day, though, or are you coming back for any of this stuff?
I'm outie. I mean, I'm playing the baseball slate and playing the basketball slate, but luckily for me, I don't have to speak on camera any longer.
There you go. You can take a break, take a nap, watch a little baseball, hang out, have yourself a time.
There is no chance I'm watching baseball. Unless I want to take a nap.
Yeah, well, sure. It's great background music.
I wouldn't even pull it up if I could.
All right. Yeah, strategy show at 12, Live Before Lock at 1. Jordan noting in the chat here and just reiterating for all of you. So, okay, about 10:55 Eastern, we're going to go. But our thanks to Jordan, to all of you in the chat, to everyone for being with us. North of 150 likes. Keep hitting that like button on your way out the door. Appreciate you. And of course, Josh Engleman, I am Adam Kaufman. Always a pleasure, buddy. Thanks for keeping us in line today.
Let's go watch Airplane.
Yeah, Kareem. Don't call me Shirley. Doesn't matter what happens now. No thumbs down. Not yet. If you do it now, it's not because of the show. It's out of spite.